Welcome back, everyone, to a Non-Typicals podcast. This week we're on episode 14 with the Whitetail Distraction podcast. We kind of break down how their podcast started, we talk about some hunting stories, and then we get into some just general hunting discussions, and definitely one you don't want to miss, so tag along.
You guys want to introduce yourself? We got Chuck and Austin, I believe, from Whitetail Distraction Podcast. Basically, just give us an intro about your guys' selves, how the podcast got started, and basically how you guys met each other, and therefore, basically, if you want to go off of that.
Sounds good, man. I guess I'll lead things off since I do most of the talking anyways.
Sometimes.
I'm just, that's who I am, I guess. But Charles Headland, Chuck, whatever you guys want to call me, is perfectly fine. But basically just been hunting my entire life. Hunting, fishing, camping, outdoors has always been, family thing with my family. I got, my dad, 3 brothers. We're all super into it, every one of us. So it was just natural for me to just kind of grow up in it. And then Austin here, we met through a mutual friend. And through that mutual friend, we became friends because we both hunted and we both liked the outdoors. And then Austin got me into podcasts. And I started listening to podcasts, and I just absolutely dove 100% in, like deep dive in. And then from there, it was all downhill. I mean, basically, I was thinking it. He said it. He was like, maybe we should start a podcast. And I don't even know if you were serious when you said that.
Oh, I was 100% balls deep.
Just making sure, because I was like, dude, I've been thinking that for like 6 weeks now. Like ever since I started listening to podcasts, why don't we do one? I mean, we have tons of stories and tons of things that we can talk about. So, that's kind of how the podcast became a thing, really, was just the two of us kind of chit-chatting about it.
Definitely. Well, I'm Austin Schweitzer. I mean, we both just kind of met, just sort of how Chuck said. I mean, we had a little bit of a mutual, his dad knows my dad. We didn't know that until we started hanging out, like way down the line, and cousins and uncles and everybody getting involved. And we were like, oh, wow. It was pretty wild, to be honest. But I grew up hunting in Pennsylvania. It's kind of like everybody else. Like gun season was the big tradition thing. And, got in hunting and fishing with my grandfather. I mean, he was my role model through everything. He hunted big game his entire life. Kodiak, Alaska, shooting brown bears and big elk and everything. I looked up to him so much. It was absolutely wild. He was a cool dude. But that's what got me into it, man. I love bow hunting and I love podcasting. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
All right, so I think I heard on your podcast you guys are on like year 5.
Yeah. We decided to do this in 2018. It was just on a whim.
That's crazy, man. I mean, to do it for 5 years, and you guys seem pretty consistent. You try to put episodes out very frequently. I don't know what you try to schedule, like once a week or something like that, pretty close. But that's very impressive to keep it going for that long.
Yeah, to be honest, I was thinking about it today, actually. We have 148 episodes that we just recorded, 148, and it doesn't compare to maybe some of the numbers of the guys that are putting out 2 a week and whatnot that started, after us around the same time. But I'm super proud of the consistency that we've had. We had a couple hiatuses, I'll call it, when, Austin was having kids. It was very, very busy time of the year, and obviously he put that first, and I would have done the same. I mean, that's just a time in your life that you're never going to get back when you have real young kids, and you really got to be there. You got to be present. You got to help out, and that's what he was doing. And for a little bit there, I picked up the slack when I needed to, and Austin has picked up the slack. He basically carries the burden of most of the podcast, to be honest, with the editing and everything. And then I just wanted to learn and try to help him as much as possible.
Totally, man. Totally. Yeah, we had a little hiatus. If we were more consistent and we didn't have those years where everything, I would at least think we would be a lot higher on the episode count. But I'm with you, man. I'm proud of what we got going on, and we've had some really great guests and met a lot of great people, and it's been an experience, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, we basically have, if you think every week for 3 years, we have that amount of podcast in a time frame of 5 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're bi-weekly. If something happens, we've had some technical difficulties. Podcasting is not as easy as everyone makes it out to be or thinks it is. trying to stay consistent with hunting season and everything else that's going on. It's tough to do it weekly, but that is our goal, and that's what we strive for. Every once in a while we might miss a week when life gets busy, but dude, we're trying to get, this thing continue going stronger than ever, to be
Definitely.
honest.
Definitely. And I would say so too. Realistically, the consistency thing, I mean, it came and it went, but at the same time, I don't even know where I was going with that.
I think you were going to say that there's a lot of podcasts that started and haven't made it this far.
I mean, yes, I wasn't quite going that way, but yeah, regardless. Congratulations on number 14, guys. I think they say, what, you got to make it to 6, and then once you
9?
hit 7,
You told me 9.
it might have been 9.
Back in the day when we started this, you told me if you make it past 9, you're officially a podcast and you can make it
Yeah,
from there.
most podcasts fail after 9. So
Yep.
congratulations, guys. That is a feat.
Thanks. Yeah, and same to you. I mean, you're 10 times as many as we are, and we're kind of similar. We had a pretty big hiatus from like last turkey season the whole way till like what 3 weeks ago. So everyone's changing jobs or starting families. Just the same stuff you guys are going through. It catches up, and then the podcast was kind of like a, I don't know, afterthought, honestly.
Yeah, definitely. I remember where I was going with it. The consistency thing. This isn't like the podcast for us. It's not something we're trying to get rich off of or become like famous or anything. It's just a hobby. So that kind of goes into the consistency thing too. Like we try and stay as consistent as we can, but like Chuck says, if it's hunting season and we want to hunt, we're gonna hunt.
Yeah, we're gonna hunt. If we're hot on a big buck, or we're right there and we need to get out because the weather's perfect or it's the rut, we're gonna get out. And,
Definitely.
And to be honest, I mean, that time frame is it kind of to our detriment because that's when everybody wants to listen to podcasts.
I know.
That's the best time frame is hunting season. That's when everybody wants to hear them. But making time for it, you have to sacrifice somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, 5 years for you guys, that is crazy. I know we're on 14, and like Moss said, we have a hard enough time getting together doing 14, let alone 148 for 5 years straight. And I mean, we've only been in it, half a year realistically, maybe a year. So, I mean, 5 years definitely an accomplishment in itself right there.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It's tough when you have multiple people involved too, because like you said, everyone has their own schedules. The easiest way to do it, the best advice I can give you is, try to make a schedule, try to schedule people out in advance, and then whoever can make it can make it. If it's 1-on-1 or if it's 3-on-1, whatever you can do just to keep things rolling. I help out with the Outcast podcast as well, and it's kind of the same there. We're up and down and all over the place, but it's never always the same people. It's whoever can make it, and that's kind of how you have to be, but it's tough because you want to enjoy it with your buddies. I didn't want to record without Austin because it's not the same podcast when there's not, the two of us.
Definitely.
So different vibes.
I feel like that's the big thing with us, like with Moss, aka Corey, we call him Moss. He's like the head guy basically because he does like all the editing and he's always around doing like all that kind of stuff. Basically, I'm doing the filming for the most part because I just take anybody out just to record like videos and stuff like that. But like the podcast, I think Moss is just more technical about everything. So with me getting a new job here starting the 24th, and then I have a kid that just was born in December, it's been freaking a roller coaster for me just to do stuff consistently. Turkey season, I got a little break because the fiance was working out at her family lives out by Wilkesboro, Scranton area, and we're from like 2.5 hours away from there. So like with her like being out there on the weekends, it was nice for turkey season because I could be free with no baby and stuff like that and get turkey on a lot this year. But like down the road, it's going to get tougher. It's just all there is to it. I know it's going to happen.
Definitely. I would say so too. We try and keep it to like, I would say when we first started getting consistent, we kept it to like Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
We were like, every Wednesday night we're going to record. And if it's not Wednesday, it's like Thursday.
Yeah.
Which kind of puts you in like that time crunch to get editing if we're putting it out Friday because we drop Fridays. But if you're moving forward and you dig it, find like that one day and try and stick to it. It makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And if you can get a week out, like the week that you record, you post it the following week. So, you double up or triple up in a week to get ahead.
Backlog.
Boy, that backlog is just so crucial. On weeks that something comes up, you can just drop an episode you already recorded. I mean, if you guys find like a week where you can all get together and just hammer out 2 or 3 a night, I mean, you could really build that backlog up and then you can, live a little stress free. but it is tough.
Now, have you guys had anybody like kind of like chomping at the bit for you guys to get their episode out? That was like a big question we always had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Couple.
Yeah.
Not too many. Most people are just kind of curious when it's coming out, but I think we've had 2 or 3 that were like, is it going to be out this week? Is it going to be out this week? And it's like, no, you're 3 back. Like,
Right. Like, no, sorry, you're 3 weeks. And if you're upfront with them and tell them, like, look, all right, we have, we're on episode 110. We have 2 recorded and then yours. So yours should post in 3 weeks. They're usually really cool. Now, if you miss that time frame, that's when the questions start coming in. People will start asking, like, hey, what's going on? Where's the episode? And the worst thing you could ever do is do that and then come up with technical difficulties where the episode's lost or something and you have to record all over again. We've had a couple of those.
that happened before too.
That's not as
It's
bad
just-
as mine. I lost all of our hunting film from last October and before.
No.
It was
That's
terrible. And
bad.
I
Yeah.
was really backlogging them. Like, yeah, we used last deer season for this upcoming one, and I lost it all. It was terrible.
Oh,
Man,
bummer.
that hurts. That hurts. Did you get any like an external hard drive or anything, or you can just throw it on immediately now?
Yeah, well, it was all on an external hard drive. Like, I knew all of the horrible stories that people tell, and then I ended up dropping it off my desk.
Oh,
So it was done.
Oh man.
oh boy. Can they hear that?
I
Did you
don't
guys
know.
hear that? No, they definitely didn't
no.
hear
They
it.
definitely didn't hear
Our
that.
sound bite. He played a sound bite.
Play it again.
It must not good.
You done messed up, Aaron.
yeah, there it was. Yep. Hey,
Like,
Ron.
it's turned down.
It's turned down
Yeah.
a little bit, yeah.
That's why.
I didn't want to blow their ears out.
That's one thing I really like about your podcast. You got them little blips in there, and that's just hilarious. It like engages with the listeners and stuff.
It's funny. Sometimes I think I border on the, cusp of being annoying when I do it, but it's funny to me. I don't know. I'm weird.
As long as the timing's right, I'm all for it. I love it. I love everything about it. We have a more laid back podcast. Ours has always been, we've always said it's like campfire style. If you're coming on our podcast, you might as well sit down in a chair across from us from the fire. Like, that's basically what we try to do. Keep it relaxed, keep it calm, and just try to have a normal conversation with people like you would in hunting camp. And if we can do that every week, I think it makes it more enjoyable. And we've had people come on where they're like, wow, I've really had fun doing this because the style is a little bit different. You're not just hammering people with questions all the time. I mean, we're asking questions. You have to interview,
Definitely.
but it's just a different, we try to go for a little bit different style.
Right. All right. So let's hop in. Here's one of my biggest questions. I've listened to you guys, probably for the last year, and then really dove into a bunch of episodes I might have missed this week because I knew you guys were hopping on. But I want to know for you individually, what drives your whitetail obsession?
Can you replace the word whitetail with turkey, and I'll answer this in like half a second. No,
Good
I'm
call.
totally kidding. Totally kidding. Whitetail for me, it was that first animal like that when you were younger, we had to wait till we were 12 to hunt, right? So when you're like 10, 11, you start to realize you're watching your dad and your older brothers go out and they're going hunting and they're coming back all covered in camo. And, whitetail was always like that animal for me that was the big one that everybody was after. Everybody wants to shoot the big buck, but really, I mean, our family was more or less, we're just out to put meat in the freezer. Like, we don't care what we killed. We were never really after, big deer, but that kind of, I mean, the whitetail bug kind of fueled me from there, just watching them and not really knowing even what it entailed. But honestly, that first archery season, when I think it really just like kicked in, because that first deer I had at like 10 yards where it's just standing there and it's, licking its back and it's giving me the head bob and it's doing everything it can to bust me. And I go to draw back and it busts me. Like, you just explode after that moment. Like, something like that first experience is what just, it'll hook you immediately. And I guess that's what did it for me as far as like actual whitetail. getting after like mature quality bucks isn't something I started to do until probably shortly after we started the podcast, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, started listening to podcasts and changing things up in the way I hunt and everything else. But, you know, it's those close encounters. That's what does it for me.
That was a cool answer.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you got it. I just love whitetail in general. I'm one of those guys that I get excited like beyond belief, whether it's a doe or whether it's the buck you're after. So, I mean, just for example, I shot my buck one year. Charles hadn't filled his buck tag. We went out. It was like late November, super duper cold in the morning. We did a hang and hunt. We got in the tree, and the only deer we saw all morning was this little forky that came in. But I will tell you, I was videoing Chuck, and I had the crazy legs. So unbelievably bad. I was so excited about this deer coming in that, like, he literally looked at me and was like, dude, calm down. I couldn't help it. I was so excited. I had no stake in the game, already filled my buck tag. It's this little dink, dude.
Not
And
even
I was
legal.
just- not even legal. I was just so excited and fired up about it. I don't know. They just get me wired. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's weird.
I feel like we could go across the board with that question, even Moss. So, like, whenever you guys were saying that, I'd say for me personally, we're different compared to you guys because we started with the mentor youth program. So
Mm,
I was
okay.
technically, I think 10 or 11 years old when I shot my first deer ever, and I think it was just a 5 point with my grandpa in rifle season. But my first archery buck, I was 11 years old, and I probably won't forget that till like the day I die. It was the year that Primos brought out that Snort Wheeze call that they came out with, the buck roar or whatever. And I was with my mom, and with her recently passed away 3 years ago, I'll always remember this for the rest of my life. So with that situation, we're sitting there, and she's like, there's like a spike and a 6 point like 300 yards away in a cut cornfield, and we're in a double man tree stand at the time being, and I had a dart and storm. I could remember it till the day I die, and I had this crappy cut on contact, freaking Carbon Express broadheads, and I freaking snort wheeze at these deer at like 250, man. And the scrubbiest bucks ever. You wouldn't think they'd come in, but they started sprinting into this snort wheeze. And it came into 30 yards. I pulled back and I shot it and smoked it and went about 50 yards and died. So like that was what got me addicted to the whole deer side of things, with the whitetail side of things. But with like what Chuck was saying, I prefer turkey better than I do deer. And that could be a whole nother
Oh,
rabbit
boy.
hole to talk about.
Yeah,
Definitely.
well, I won't bring us into the turkey rabbit hole. We're too close to deer season now.
There you go.
I won't do that to you guys. By the way, I still use that same call. I just had to replace that little like reed stopper in it like 4 million times, but I use that
Yeah.
same call today. I've called so many deer in with that. I mean, I don't use the snort wheeze. I do that with just my mouth, but the grunt on that thing is just like,
It's mean.
dude, it works so well.
I have
So
the same
well.
one, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny that you say that stopper because literally last year, the best hunt that I had all year, I went to grunt at a buck, nothing.
Yeah.
I was just blown through.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out.
Did it freeze up or was
No.
it that ring?
No, that little plug fell out that actually like
Like little
wedges
rubber
your
band.
reed.
Yeah.
I ended up breaking a branch off a tree and whittling it with my knife, and I shoved it in there, and then I grunted the rest of the day with it. But I think it's still in there. I didn't replace it.
Yeah, I've had mine freeze on some really nice deer in Ohio. Man, that is the worst feeling in the
You're
world.
blowing so hard, and then all of a sudden you just.
I am interested though to hear from the other two, you know, Eric and Moss, to see what kind of got you guys hooked as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can go. So like Cody said, I was in the mentor youth program. I think I started hunting at like 10. I missed a deer every year when I was 10, 11, and 12. I didn't shoot my first buck until I was 13 with a rifle, and it was a spike. And from there, I mean, just kind of got hooked on it. And I'm like, yeah, and that was rifle hunting. And then 13, I finally was able to pull back 35 pounds to hunt archery. And I missed 2 bucks that year with my bow for the first year. And I finally shot a doe. And from there, like, it was just hooked from there. And like, I mean, I watched my dad, my uncle, my grandpa. Really, my uncle was a big archery one. He got me into archery. Crossbows weren't really a thing. So he's like, you got to pull back 35 pounds. And I'm part of an archery league in the winter. So like all winter long, we just would go up there and shoot and shoot and shoot. So I could just build my muscles the whole way up so I could hunt archery that year. Uh, and my grandpa was rifle. He was like big, like you, Austin, I think you said your grandpa. Yeah,
Yep.
he did it all. He's been to Iowa a bunch of times, killed some studs in Iowa. Like I always, and I was real young then. I'm like, I wanna be like him. I want to shoot giants. And it just like got the itch, and now it hasn't gone away yet.
My man, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
That's awesome. Did archery get you more hooked or more addicted than rifle did? Was it a totally different experience for you?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't even hunt rifle now, really. I mean, I do because we'll get together and we'll do drives and stuff. Like if I don't have
Yeah.
a buck tag, I'm like, I'm still walking. I don't care. Like if I don't shoot one in archery, I just kind of chalk it up as not shooting a buck for the year. It's addicting. It's like a drug that you just can't get off of, that you want to do consistently. And rifle, like I've kind of lost the touch. Like I enjoy it because I'm always together with a group of guys, close friends and family and stuff. But like hunting wise, I'd rather be in a tree stand with my bow than anything.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, man.
Totally.
I think every year I say it, if I can fill every tag with my bow, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But over probably the last 4 or 5 years, just the camaraderie of camp and it's kind of brought my interest in rifle season back. Bringing new groups of friends in and hunting with new people and taking my nephew out. I mean, that's all stuff that I can do with a rifle that I can't really do with a bow, as easily or as effective. So it's been fun, but it's a totally different world. So I'm glad to hear that wasn't, much different for you guys as it was for us, it seems like.
Definitely.
And then for me, I just really like how it's like you can be as adaptable as you want in the whitetail hunting realm. Like you can go mobile, you can go, ladder stand, stuff like that. And I really like it's literally like a game of chess. Like you can get involved as much as you want, you can strategize as much as you want, but you don't have to go. Like if there's a day that you're like, you know what, I'm brain dead, I'm just gonna go pick a spot. You never know, that biggest buck could be walking over the hill. But I also like the chase aspect where you're trying to find those bigger bucks on purpose.
I totally agree with that. I like that approach to it too. I mean, you have to be adaptable. It's not to say that you can't go sit the same stand every day and shoot a good one, because you absolutely can. You can shoot 1,000,000 deer in a season doing that. But I'm with you. I like the, how many different approaches even I've taken since we've started this podcast, just learning different stuff from guys and, starting off mobile and hunting with the biggest freaking climbing stand you've ever seen and being loud and everything else, and then moving through that mobile setup, getting lighter, and then going into saddle hunting or run and gun or anything like that. It's wild.
Yeah, and then like I moved up here 3 years ago. I'm up in Kane now, and I used to run down to like Cody's or down 3 hours to my parents. I'm like, you know what? I'm in the part of the state that has the biggest bucks probably per square mile. I just need to double down and get to it, and I'm on year 2 with that. So it's been, I would say, hunting up here is a lot more fun than anywhere else I've hunted, really.
Definitely.
Kane area, that's got to be pretty tough hunting, though. I would imagine big woods, steep elevation changes. I mean, that's some serious real estate. I'll be up your way here not too a couple weeks now for some rattlesnake hunting. Be heading through your area,
Lord.
so yeah, it's a fun area.
The area I kind of hunt, it's like on the top of the plateau, so it's kind of flat.
Okay.
There is hills, but I mean, you probably have to drive 20, 30 minutes to get in some big country. You're probably looking
Gotcha.
at more like east towards like Emporium type area.
Nice. Who were we just talking to that was from Emporium?
I have no idea.
Somebody. I don't know.
That doesn't ring a bell with me. I don't even know where that is. I know where Kane is.
Maybe I was talking to somebody. I thought it was on the podcast. Maybe
No,
not.
I don't think so. But it is wild, though. I mean, just the way that we've changed over the years and what kind of hunter, and it's so crazy. I know you guys were talking about some of the early ages where you killed bucks like 11 and 13. I mean, I don't think I killed my first buck until I was 17, 18 years old. I mean, I was still in high school, but I was almost, I was probably a junior, senior when I finally got my first buck. It was with a gun, nice 6 point. But I know I was older than 16 because it was point restrictions, and I was up 2F, and I shot a really nice 6 point. But that was tough when they first came out with point restrictions, and we were trying, transitioning from like 16 to 17. And back then, you guys might not even know it because wouldn't have applied to you guys, but you had to have 4 on a side back then. You had to have the brow tine as well, and that was tricky because how many bucks you see with brow tines that are an inch, and maybe an inch and a half, and they come through last light dog and a doe, and I had to pass on dozens and dozens of deer, back then. But it just goes to show like that I didn't care if I killed a buck every year back then. I really didn't. I was just trying to kill numbers. 2-3 deer a year was what my goal was every year, and accomplished it. And it wasn't until more recently, like I said earlier, like we really started to go after targeting bucks, I guess. More or
More
less.
mature bucks, just in general. Targeting, yeah, kind of, but getting into like a more aggressive approach and really trying to get on like that next caliber animal.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys, from what I understand, you guys go out of state quite a bit. Whether it's deer hunting or I think you guys go out of state a little bit for turkey, don't you?
Definitely more Chuck than me, but I
Yeah.
kind of stick to West Virginia for the out-of-state turkey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been doing a lot more traveling lately, last few years. We've always tried to do one out-of-state trip for deer, my family and I. We used to go to Illinois. That was my dad's spot for like 13, 14 years straight. He went to Illinois every year and chased absolute giants. And then EHD hit out there so bad that, of course, my first year out there was like the big EHD years. I think it was 2012. It was right after college.
They got hammered.
Yeah, got absolutely crushed, but we all three had opportunities at really nice deer. I actually shot a really nice buck, probably a 125, 130 class buck, and somebody had found it before we recovered it and cut the head off. So that was fun. So that would have been my first ever archery buck, and somebody, cut the head off of it. But my dad's buddy he did get one that year, and after that, I think we took a year off, went to Ohio, and then went back to Illinois, and it just wasn't the same. So we've been bouncing around a little bit, but Ohio seems to be every year for deer. Now turkey, that's a totally different animal. I've been all over the place for turkey. I hunted 5 states this year. Yeah, 5 states this year. I don't know what I'll do next year. Probably another 5 or 6. It just depends.
Since we weren't going to talk about turkey, what's your goal for turkey? I don't want to, but I'm just curious. Are you going for your like 51 state? I mean, the 50 states, or 49. It's 49 chasing 49.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I've heard some people talk about it, and they've put it well. Like, I'm not going after 49, but I'm going to continue to hit different states and cross them off my list one at another. I'm more going after the experience of the traveling and trying to get on birds in short periods of time and seeing new places, and going out west this year, like South Dakota, experiencing that. And the difference between that and going down south to Florida, those are like 2 different worlds, completely 2 different worlds. And it's just been so much fun. I completed my Grand Slam this year, and it's just been, I mean, now there really isn't, there was never pressure, but it's more or less just trying to knock a couple new ones off every year. If I can get 2 or 3 new ones every year, I'd be perfectly fine with that. I know some people say 49 by the time they're 49. That seems like a reasonable goal, I guess.
I'd say that's reasonable.
Gives me some time.
Yeah, definitely. I don't really have a turkey goal, to be honest with you. I don't have the bug quite as bad as Chuck does. I'm more into whitetails, but I don't know. I've hunted a couple of states out of state for turkey. I like hunting them. It's a blast when I'm there, but it's not something I like. Charles is absolutely thoroughly bit by the bug. He's obsessed with killing birds. I mean, that's his thing, but not for me. Not so much. I more so want to go like shoot a mule deer or something.
Yeah.
That's the same for me. I could give 2 shits less about turkeys. Deer's where it's at, I have no problem shooting a Jake every first opening day. I have no problem doing that.
There you go.
That's exactly how I am.
I'll see myself out.
It's good talking with you, Chuck.
I'll pound a Jake first morning, last day, doesn't matter. We did do a travel out of state. I know they did, Moss and Cody did one this year, but I went, what was it? Was it 2 years ago, Cody? What, 3 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago.
We went down to Tennessee. It was the first out of state trip we ever did.
It was fun. I mean, I think that really piqued my turkey interest, but like Moss said, I could care less. I'd rather go chase, whitetails in a different state. Austin, like you said, muleys, elk's my dream hunt, chasing them in the rut with a bow out west somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just anything with a bow. Like I want to go kill a bunch of animals archery. Like I don't want to do it with a rifle.
I'm with you. I'm kind of on the fence about that. Like I love killing stuff with my bow 100%. I'd like to maybe dip my toes into the Western game maybe with a gun, but at the same time I want to take the bow. I do, but if I'm spending that much money on a tag, especially the first time out, I think I want to take a gun and reach out and poke something.
Yeah. It's tough, man.
Yeah, turkey's totally different for me. Like if it's a Jake and if I accidentally shoot a power Jake on accident for a mature bird, it is what it is. But I'm trying to shoot a gobbler. And I'm more hooked to turkey, I think, hunting because my mom was like a big turkey hunter. So like that was the thing that we like to do together is just turkey hunt. Like turkey hunting is a big thing. Like the biggest bird I've ever seen was hers, and she shot at 12.5-inch beard and 2.5-inch spurs. So like that was a big bird. I almost shot 1.5 inch this year. It was 1 3/8 and I had 10-inch beard. So that was my biggest bird to date. But tail fan snapped, so I couldn't get him out, and that was the only disappointing thing I will say. Like whenever I shot it rolled down the hill, it was the last Saturday because Monday was the last day. I shot at 1. When I shot it, rolled down the hill and snapped his tail fan, so I couldn't get it mounted. So it was a very disappointing day, but at the same time, it was my biggest bird to date. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I think when you're traveling, I mean, it's so much easier to travel and hunt for turkey. It's more affordable. You can do it on a shorter time frame and get on birds because they are screaming at you. I mean, they're literally, if deer gobbled, I would love deer too, as much as I love turkey. But, and I can't really even say that I love one more than the other. When it's turkey season, yeah, absolutely. I could care less about deer. But right now, like I'm getting pretty gung-ho. We got some really nice deer on camera and, it's getting very exciting. It's starting to remind me why I still hunt whitetails as hard as I do and as much as I do because I love it just as much. But, I want it all too. I want to do elk hunting and I want to do antelope and all these other things. It's just to try to save the money and the time, when you go out west like that is such an investment to go for a 10-day hunt and try to get those days off of work. And usually, to be completely honest, I'm spent all my days by turkey season.
Yeah, definitely.
Turkey season just happens to come first, and it's just a lot easier. But I definitely have goals and aspirations to hunt elk, like you're saying, man, and in the rut with a bow. I think that I'm afraid it'll hook me as much as turkeys do because that could be very addicting as well. And then now you got a $5,000 trip every year.
It's a big turkey, man.
Yeah, but
They say turkey hunting is comparable to elk hunting. They say it's about the same kind of concept I heard. So that's what scares me. If I go do that, I'm gonna be screwed.
100%. I'm in the same boat. I'm actually very frightful that might pull me in because I know what I won't be able to sleep at night for months on months. But I actually just booked a trip, funny enough, to a deer hunt this January into Florida of all places. So I hunted there a couple years back, and I only got to really hunt half of a day because it was kind of a hunting trip, but also like a vacation trip with my wife and her brother lived down there. So I was kind of going back and forth. And then the one day that we were hunting, another buddy shot a deer and he needed help. So I just went and helped him try to track it. So, but I'm going back and I think I'm going to do actually dog hunting. I think I'm going to try.
Really?
Yeah.
This is the first I'm hearing about that.
Yeah, dude. They talked me into it. A couple guys that had tried it last year that, are just drop dead bow only hunters that are just absolute killers. And he's like, dude, I've never had more fun than dog hunting for deer down south with these guys, this group of guys. And he's like, look, you're coming in for 3 days. You don't know the place. You've never stepped foot on it. Why don't you just come with us? We're probably not going to kill anything, but you're going to have such a better experience and so much more fun. So I've never really had an opinion one way or the other on dog hunters for deer because we've never seen it. We've never experienced it up here. Obviously, it's not legal, but I've hunted small game, rabbits, squirrels, coyote, all these things with dogs, and I love it. Pheasants, it's a different experience. So I think I'm going to do that at least a couple days, and then maybe I'll go hang in the saddle and try to shoot one with a gun. But it's buck only, so why not?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Like I'm in the same boat as you. I don't know how I feel about dog hunting deer, but I feel like at least doing it once would be a freaking blast.
Yeah. I want to experience it. I don't want to be the guy that's never done it that just talks crap on it. And they have no experience whatsoever with it. I can do that with fly fishing because, I have bad experiences with fly fishermen. But when it comes to dog hunting, I've never had that. So I'm actually looking forward to it. It's making the trip more exciting for me. And I'm sure we'll do Ohio again this year. We might do Missouri over Ohio. I don't know. Every year we're kind of in the boat where, do we really want to go back to Ohio, or do we want to try Illinois again? Do we want to go to Missouri? I would rather go to Missouri, even though we've had such good success in Ohio. I shot my biggest buck in Ohio last year. We've put some deer down over there. The numbers don't lie. I mean, it's been our most successful state by far for out-of-state hunts. So it's a tough one. We'll see.
Illinois might be on the uprise again. I know Alex, one of our group members, he killed a pretty nice one. His whole group, I don't know what the biggest one was, but they all killed really nice deer.
They were great deer, yeah.
That was Indiana Moss. It wasn't Illinois.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
It starts with an I.
Yeah, go to Indiana. There's nice deer out there.
There are huge. Indiana's a sleeper, dude. Honestly.
Yeah. There's not a lot of public in Indiana, but it's not that big of a state anyways. But that's the troubling part is there's not a ton of public. And that's how we do these trips. Every trip we do, it's always public. I mean, we're not hunting private land. We're not hunting leases. Every out-of-state trip that we do, it's on public land. So
I know a dude who worked on the railroad in Indiana, and he would go shed hunting in the rail yards and around the railroad tracks. You should see some of the sheds this kid brought home. Unbelievably large.
Yeah. I think if Indiana was a bigger state, they'd probably be on the map as one of the biggest buck states. For sure.
Totally. I would say if you drive through Indiana, think about booking a trip and a vacation to Gary, Indiana. It's a beautiful place.
There you go.
That's
So,
being an
Eric, you got
ass.
a question?
It's terrible.
I did back then, like way back, but I don't remember quite what it was. But I do have one since we were talking, out of state and what we want to hunt. What would be both of your dream hunts? You can book it right now. What would you go chase? Like season, animal, rifle, bow.
That's an easy one for me.
Go ahead. I know what mine is too, but
Dude, 15-day float trip for moose with a bow in Alaska. Hands down.
yeah, that just seems to be that was going to be mine. Initially back in the day I always wanted to shoot a caribou and I don't know why. But
They're cool.
on it, yeah, but I think now it'd be more like and maybe not in Argentina, but somewhere with just a giant red stag with a bow. I think red stag with a bow, either Argentina, New Zealand, wherever. I think that would be, if I could do anything, would be top of the bucket list. I mean,
It's a good one.
those things are wicked, man.
They are, and they
They're
scream,
Yeah.
and they put their head between their legs and pee in their mouth while they're bugling or whatever. I'm serious. Watch a video. It's wild.
They got out of hand quick.
They do. Then they fill up their mouth and then they spit it everywhere. Just, it's weird.
Yeah, I want to change my answer. Now I'm intimidated.
Watch a video, dude. I'm serious.
Jeez. Yeah, they don't show that part on videos, I guess, that I watch. What about you guys? You guys got one on top of your head?
I'll go
He's
first.
dying laughing right now.
Yeah. I I don't know, whitetail deer, dude. It's just if a dream hunt of mine would be, I guess my end goal overall for whitetails is a Boone and Crockett on film. But if I was talking an exotic species or something that's not a whitetail, it'd be Sika deer and Delmarva.
Ooh, Sika deer. That's on my list right
That'd
now.
be fun.
And that's like affordable hunt too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like little turkey, man.
Yeah, that is a weird.
It's like a mini elk.
It is, but that's a weird like dream hunt because, like you said, it is kind of it's obtainable, it's reachable, but at the same time, that thing's got like you're going backwards in antlers for that little guy.
No, but it's tough, man.
I
That's
know,
a tough hunt.
Normally, everybody that you ask, they go bigger and badder than what they have, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's a unique, and
It's
I like the answer.
It's just I don't know the type of terrain that they're in those marshlands, and like you guys said, it's practically a mini stag, and just the vocals that they do, and they just I don't know, they're the guinea pig of freaking deer. I freaking want to blast one in the face.
Yeah, dude, the marsh ghost.
Do you know what a muntjac is?
I don't think
Look up a muntjac.
The real little guys.
They're tiny, tiny little deer, man. They might
They're
be
like this big.
they might be 30 pounds.
Are they the ones with the little tusk?
Yeah, they got little tusks basically. They're sweet, man. They're supposedly phenomenal eating.
Well, look how small they are. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
a
I'd shoot
12-inch
one of those.
walleye.
I don't know. I think it'd be cool to get like every subspecies of deer too.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Something
For
like
sure.
that. Nothing like it'd be awesome to go out in the Yukon or go hunt Kodiak brown bear, but I'm more of a realistic type person. That's probably never gonna happen for me. So shooting small.
You know, the Powerball is pretty high right now.
Yeah, I played that a couple times. They only just take my money.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's not the way to get to one of them hunts. Scratch offs. They'll get you there. What about you other guys? What do you got for a dream hunt?
So mine, I would say elk or mule deer, but I mean out west, really, if you saved your money, could be pretty affordable. I think mine would be going to the Kodiak and chasing grizzly bear with a bow only.
Yeah.
Hell
yeah,
Like,
dude.
that would be to get up close and personal with one of those things, and they're giants. It would be a thrill, like just an adrenaline rush like no other.
Yeah, you're asking for a heart attack for sure.
After this podcast, I have a picture of my grandfather's Kodiak brown bear that he shot on Kodiak Island. I'll send it over to your Instagram. It's pretty wild.
Yeah,
Didn't shoot it with a
one of-
bow, but still cool.
One of so actually my boss and his brother, my boss shot a grizzly. Or not, it wasn't a grizzly. It was somewhere. I don't know if it was a Kodiak or but somewhere, Alaska, somewhere over. It was a brown bear, and he's like, I just was at his house, and he's like, yeah, my brother's makes it look small, and we were at a party at his brother's then, and he had to dedicate an entire room for it, like his
definitely.
is book worthy, like it's ginormous, it's insane.
Wow.
That's incredible.
What about you, Cody?
Screw that brown bear hunt with your bow because I don't want to die. First of all, I'd like to be on ground at least 30 yards away from one. Honestly, I want to relive my mom's dreams, which would be I want to go on a elk rut hunt with the bow and shoot elk just for her sake. Honestly, that would be probably the biggest thing for me. I really want to shoot a bull elk with a bow too, but I just kind of want to do that for her because she couldn't do it. So basically that's what I want to do. It's different.
I feel you on that, man. Yeah, that's good. It's a good answer too.
Yeah, elk's definitely up there for me too. I mean, that's probably top 3, to be honest. But one that's crept up kind of, and it's not exactly a species, but a trip to Africa would be incredible. It would be absolutely incredible. I think that'd be so cool. You get to shoot all kinds of animals, and I'm not even talking like the crazy species, just all like their deer species. I would just love to pile up the horns out there. It'd be so much fun, man.
Cape
It's cheap.
buffalo with an atlatl.
It is. It's super reasonable too. I don't think I'd atlatl. I'd like to get efficient with it first, but
It
we'll see.
I need to check one thing on my phone real quick. Keep going,
Okay.
guys.
it's
yeah.
cheap too. It's cheap to go to Africa. I know that for a fact.
I
Because
was surprised how cheap, honestly.
yeah, honestly, you're basically paying for your flight for the most part, and then everything else is pretty much cheap over there because they want them dead for the most part, and they get enough clientele to have people go over there and shoot all their stuff for them. And then you can't bring back the meat. I got
Yeah.
told, but it is what it
Can
is.
you-
I don't care.
Can you bring back like the racks or the hides anymore? Like I know it was banned for a while. I wasn't sure if Trump took that out of like he allowed it to start happening again. I don't know if he can though.
You can definitely get them back. Yeah. So what it is though, they have to do the taxidermy there. So they have to either hand the hides or do the full mount in Africa before they can send them over. And the problem is where most people get hung up is the regulations to get them into our country from out of country. And this is, not much different even for like Mexico. We were talking to somebody about what trouble they went just getting their animal back from Mexico. It was unbelievable. I mean, they said if it had more than 2 ticks on the hide, they would just throw it to the side. But the problem in Africa is most of those places, they'll do the taxidermy and they have to clear customs. So they'll sit for 6 to 8 months in a crate in a warehouse in Africa heat. And eventually a bug will get in and it could destroy your so it's a big risk, but you can definitely get it back. It's just to go through the right outfitter that's going to fight for you and really push it would be an ideal situation if you really want to go over and get all of your animals back.
Yeah, you'll never catch me going out of the country other than to Canada to go hunt.
I think Africa would be fun. I think that'd be just like an unbelievable experience type hunt. That would be one that I don't even care if I killed anything. It would just be,
I go to Mexico for coups.
oh, for sure.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Coups would be fun.
Yeah,
Actually, that was
would be,
almost on the list once or twice.
yeah, that would be definitely one for me. But the Africa thing, I could care less to bring it back over. I just want to freaking kill some crap.
Definitely. It would be wild though. We were just talking to somebody last night on the podcast, Charmaine, and she's going over in August.
Yeah.
I would love to shoot a kudu.
Mhm.
I think that would be really cool. That's the kind of the only one that I have like
Yeah.
a tremendous interest in, but I don't know if I would actually go to Africa or not.
I think I would go, and it probably would be easiest. I know you guys were talking about like getting the skull mount version, and rather than doing like a shoulder mount, just because it'd be a lot easier to get it through customs that way. So that would be cool too, just to have like the horns and the skulls. I mean, they're really cool animals, and there's so many of them. I think that's why Africa's on the list, just because it's not one. Thing about when you talk about you're going to Alaska, you're going to hunt bear. You're going to Alaska, you're going to hunt moose. You're not going to go to Alaska, hunt bear, moose, wolf. I mean, some people do. You're going to spend a lot of money, but you can go to Africa and spend a fraction of that price and hunt 20 different species. So it's comparable to what kind of hunter are you? Do you want to put up numbers and kill a bunch of stuff and let a bunch of arrows fly, or do you want to suffer for 12 days and maybe get one opportunity at one animal? I'm kind of both, so I don't know.
Yeah, I can see that standpoint.
For Africa, could you not like do a European and have it shipped, just a skull mount, have it shipped over here and then have a replica made where you wouldn't have to deal with the customs or the, anything
Yeah.
of that nature?
Probably, but then
If you-
again, you're spending money.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If you could find a hide,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be the biggest issue.
yeah, finding a hide for something like that would be really tough.
I feel
Yeah,
like
Texas.
Africa for me, it's gonna sound crappy, but I probably would just go on a killing spree over there, honestly, because one, I'm not gonna get any of the meat, and it's gonna go to a good cause, I guess. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
freaking have like over a dozen arrows, and I'm just gonna stick everything I see.
Your
definitely
checkbook
get
is
to-
gonna hate you.
Yeah, you're going to be paying for them, but I mean, you get to eat them, you just don't get to take them home.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
the tough part. But you are donating to starving families and communities, and it's an awesome hunt for that reason too. It's a feel good hunt, but I'm kind of with you, man. I just want to just stack bodies. It feels like first day of rifle kind of hunt. Like, let's just go stack them bodies.
And Chuck, I think you said it, just the experience itself, like to see a completely different culture on the complete other side of the world, like just to see what they go through on a daily basis without even killing an animal. It would just be like getting to interact with those people would be something within itself on
Yeah.
top of the hunt.
Yeah. If you wonder why I travel so much for turkey, one, because it's affordable, but the real reason is because of that same thing, the adventure. And every single time you travel somebody or somewhere for a turkey, I mean, it's a new adventure. It's a new place. It's somewhere you've never been in your life. And I think that's the coolest thing in the world is that I'm going to experience one, I'm going to visit and see the country that I haven't seen. I've mostly stayed around the eastern side of the country for most of my life, but I'm starting to expand and go to different places. And I'm going to see those places in the outdoors hunting a turkey, which is like my favorite thing in the world to do. So for me, it's a win-win, man. It's the adventure and it's the fact that you get to be in the woods while you're seeing the country in a whole new place and everything's different. Culture's different everywhere you go. But Africa would be such a culture shock. It would be absolutely insane. I think that would just be over the top. But I kind of like the feeling of uneasiness that you get when you think about it. It's embrace the suck or, be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I guess would be the better
That'd be a
term.
better one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Like-
I've always heard a saying that make yourself comfortable in the uncomfortable, and that would definitely be, something. Yeah, like you said, culture shock that you just have to become comfortable with. That would be completely different.
And I don't want to speak for my wife, but my wife Taylor, she went to Africa like 2 years ago for like a college thing. And she said like it's a lot more private, like preserves than you would imagine. She went to
Definitely.
like South Africa, but she only went to like the towns and villages like once or twice on her 2-week adventure over there. And she says it was pretty rough.
I can imagine.
Yeah. That'd
Yeah.
be pretty.
Yeah. They're not, it's, it would be kind of an eye opener for how well we do have it that we're able to do this and talk on a podcast and, enjoy some girly beverages and
My phone was dying. Be able to plug it in.
just
First
plug
world
it right
problems.
in,
You know?
we do have it really good here. And I think something like that too would kind of bring you back down to earth a little bit and make you maybe appreciate more of what we do and what we can chase here. Even if it's a hunting aspect, a life aspect, whatever, I like to compare everything to the outdoors because that's kind of what my whole world revolves around. But it would be, yeah, all of those things in one, I guess, is why Africa's crept up my list.
All right, so back to the States. I guess let's talk about what you've already experienced. Let's talk about your favorite hunting memory, whether it's deer, bear, turkey, whatever. Let's hear the whole breakdown.
Out of state memory.
That's fine. Yep.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Trying to think of a good out of state memory. So yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't
So-
have to be out of state. It could just be any like your favorite hunting memory in general is what he said.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I got a favorite hunting memory. You go ahead though.
Dude, that we ask this every week, and it's now on us. And I've drawn a total blank. Like,
Oh, I mean, I can
I have
go.
a good out of state memory, but like,
He's
Yeah.
just they're looking for a memory in
all
general.
right, you go first then.
Yeah. We've told on our podcast 1,000 times, but you're gonna remember this very, very well. But the last buck I shot in archery, the hellhole swamp buck, like 100%. So Charles, I think I texted him in the afternoon. I said I was going out to a property that we hunt together, and it's a big swamp. It's gnarly. We've killed quite a few deer out of there actually. It's a really great property, but and I was asking if he wanted to come out and film or something, I think. And he was taking a youth out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, that's cool. I'm just gonna go all solo hunt. And I had a spot in mind, but I was kind of going in blind and I was running late and I got parked and it's next to like this big ass railroad track. And you don't usually hear trains on it very often. And a train was just barreling. And I was like, I'm running behind. I'm using this train as like my cover to get in there. And I basically sprinted. I threw my pack on. I was in my, my base layers. I looked like a crazy person wearing rubber boots and base layers, running through the woods with a stand on my back. Actually, it wasn't a stand. It was actually the first saddle. Yeah.
Yeah.
First hunt with a saddle too. And I had my bow and everything. I looked like a crazy person. I got blown in there, and I get right to where about the ridge was that I wanted to get up, and I start cresting the ridge, and there's a pile of does in there, and they just busted out like crazy. And I was like, well, this hunt sucked. So I went in and I found this tree, and it was kind of an anomaly because, a lot of maples and stuff like that, they have the multiple trunks. This was a cherry tree, and it's a triple cherry. And I was like, this thing is sweet. It was like made for a saddle setup. And I got in it and got all cooled down, got all my camo on and everything, got all set up. And it was just quiet, quiet, quiet. And it was like, I think it was October 27th, maybe. No, it was the 29th. It was Mel Johnson Day.
The 29th, yeah.
29th, yeah. And I was like, I'm just gonna go for it. I blew these does out. I'm just gonna hunt a little bit aggressive in the stand. And I started rattling, I started banging horns, just beating the bricks off of them. And it was kind of chill after that too. And I started doing a little bit of blind grunting. And I pulled out that buck roar and I hit it a couple times, and it was like a light switch hit. And this buck, I hear this crash. He jumped this huge ditch. He must have just been cruising this ridge line, and he's on a beeline straight for my tree. And I wasn't prepared for it or anything. I didn't have my bow in my hand, nothing. And it happened so fast. He was literally get my bow up, and he's underneath me basically. And this is the first time hunting out of a saddle. I'd played around with it a few times, and I was basically shooting straight down on this deer and got an arrow in him. I thought it was a good shot, and it turned out okay, but he took off. I mean, like a bat out of hell, and just crashed. And I was like, I think he crashed. Awesome. So I'm shaking like a leaf. I call him. He's like, oh man, I'm just kind of getting out of the woods. I don't have a flashlight or anything. And we were in an area with another buddy of ours. I was like, call him up, see if you can get a flashlight, see if he wants to come, whatever. And all of them ended up coming. Him, his wife, his brand new baby. His wife was carrying a baby in a baby carrier, and we just started tracking this deer, man. And it was all of a sudden, right off the bat, just absolute ridiculous blood. I attribute that to the veteran. It was the regular veteran, the OG veteran.
It was, yeah. It was a bloodbath, man.
It was Freddy Krueger blood, man. And we were looking, and he literally, this tree had fallen, and it was all the top. So it was this huge area of limbs, and he literally ran through it like somebody ran through like a drywall, just straight through it. And that was the crash that I heard, and that's not where he ended up.
Nope.
We started tracking him into the swamp, and we came up to a very large stream, and his tracks and his blood led right into the stream. And we were like, oh man, we're shining lights on the other side, not seeing anything. Didn't see where he came out or anything, and it was getting late. And our buddy was like, man, I got the baby. If it wasn't for, them, I would literally swim across this right now with you. And I was like, all right, we all backed out, and Charles was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I really want to get to that other side and see if we can find some blood. And we went way out around. We crashed through all this stuff. It was gnarly. It was all red brush, and it was basically a wall that we had to get through, and we're just picking this piece apart, looking for anything. We found a spot of blood. I mean, a pinprick of blood. And we were like, all right, so he definitely crossed. We start going, and we were finding pinprick. Charles is out ahead of me with hydrogen peroxide spraying on all these leaves, just trying to find any bit of blood. And it was actually working because it foams up. And we're going through, and it's getting gnarly again. And we peek around this corner, and he died right in his bed, like this absolute buck nest. There were huge rubs everywhere, beds all over the place. It was just like this picture perfect finding this buck, and it was absolutely epic. We get him all, dressed up and everything, and Charles's flashlight dies. So we have his cell phone light. His cell phone has like 10% battery, and we have my headlamp. I had left my cell phone in the truck. OnX isn't working, so we can't figure out which way we need to go. No lights, basically. My headlamp's dying, and we're just like, dude, we're knee deep in mud,
Oh, it's miserable.
dragging this deer. I shot it at like 6:30. Push come to shove, this whole excursion getting this deer out, it was like 2 in the morning when we got back to the truck. It was bananas, dude. But it was probably the most memorable hunt. I mean, in general.
Yeah, I won't forget it.
No,
Yeah, you'll never forget that. That sounds like a blast, though.
it was wild, man.
Some
Dude,
of
it
the
was
best
insane.
nights are running through the woods tracking a deer until 2 a.m.
Yeah,
Yep. Yeah, especially when he's on the other end of it. I remember getting into that area and we were just both looking at each other like, oh my God, look, there's a rut there. Like, dude, this is like a buck nest. Like, if there's a buck in here, this is his bedding ground. And we come around and he's like laying perfectly died, laying down in his bed, right up against this tree, like with swamp grass over top of him. All we could see was like his back end. And he come around the corner and there he was dead. It was so cool, man. But getting him out of there, that was interesting.
I give you props though, because the normal person would have gave up as soon as they got the pinpoint, like the pin dropped bloods. Honestly, you don't know how many deer get lost in Pennsylvania, especially because there's so many more hunters in most states. That as soon as they got the pin drop of blood, they would have been like, "Oh, screw it, this deer's gonna make it. He's fine."
Mm-hmm. If there's anything I pride myself in, it's definitely deer tracking. Me and my younger brother, we have the nickname the Beagles.
yep.
From a long time of really good blood tracking, which is perfect into my story because probably my favorite hunting memory ever. It doesn't involve me shooting anything. It was actually a hunt my dad and I were on, and we were up in this way back in this corner of the property. You can't get any farther back in on this private piece that we hunt. And we're in there, and these are the radio days. This is pre-cell phone, so we got our little radios. I'm set up in a ladder stand down from him. He's probably 80 to 100 yards up from me. He shoots this buck, and the first he thinks he missed it. He can't find any blood, whatever. He calls me on the radio, hey, I shot at this buck. So we get down, I go over, we start finding blood. We start tracking this deer, just him and I. And we track it around the entire hillside. And we are going through some of the nastiest stuff you could ever imagine. And we're following very little blood. And we're not sure where he hit this deer. I mean, there's not much blood on the arrow. Nothing's really like, there's no telltale sign of what he did. So we finally decide, all right, we're in a very thick area. Deer could bed down over here. Let's go ahead and back out. We'll come back in the morning. This is where it becomes my favorite hunting story because in the morning we come back with my younger brother Joe, my older brother Russ. Actually, John might have been there too, my other brother, and then my dad and my cousin Bill, he passed away in 2011. So this was like an all hands on, we're going to go find your buck. So it's me and my younger brother in the front. We're the Beagles. We're on the blood. Everybody else is kind of going off on their own, trying to look for bodies, whatnot. We come across this road bed and we can't figure it out. We have no idea where this deer went. He hit this gravel road. We cannot figure it out. So finally, my cousin found a little speck of blood going into the other side, and he kind of went down the road and in. So me and my brother jump back on it, and this thing opens up, and there's just blood everywhere. We're literally running. We're beagle howling. We are tracking this blood through a swamp. It's just up a hill. We're flying, because at this point now the deer is still alive. Like we haven't figured it out yet, but there's fresh blood like everywhere, and there's just a bloodbath. We're falling. So we're acting all crazy. We come back down and we cross the same spot on the road, and we're like, wait a second. I know this blood wasn't here because we looked on this road for 2 hours looking for the next spot of blood, and we're all sitting there, and the realization came about this deer's still alive. Like, oh man, you got to be kidding me. So we start tracking it just nice, and we slowed down, actually got our wits about us, and we start tracking the deer, and he crosses the main road onto the other side. Now it's like, oh boy, if he goes much farther, he's going to be on other private land. We don't even know who they are. And I don't know if this deer, even going to die. We're all kind of questioning. We look up and there's this buck chasing does across the hillside on the other side. We're like, shit, is that your deer? And my dad's like, I don't know. I can't tell, it's just a deer chasing does. I'm like, oh man, all right, well, let's take him as far as we can and just try to figure it out. And we cross the road. I come around this big brush pile of stuff, and I literally walk from me to Austin away from this deer. I almost step on it, and it's sitting there still alive. Like it's
man.
dead, but it's alive. Like it's at the point where he's done. He's into shock. But man, just walking up on that deer, like literally from feet away, I jumped out of my skin. I let out some kind of shriek I can't even explain.
Schoolgirl.
Yeah, it was bad. I was like, deer right here, deer right here. I'm trying to get their attention. They're all still, talking and trying to come up with a plan. I'm like, he's right here. So we finished the deer, and it was like that whole family being there for that, and then my cousin being there, who's no longer with us, like that memory and that picture of all of us huddled around the buck, that by far, if I had to come up with like my favorite memory, it's got to take the cake for me. I've killed some deer in the years, and Austin and I were together when I killed my biggest buck, and that was awesome. But there's like the story's not there with something like you know what I
Definitely.
mean?
Yeah,
The
I know what
story's
you
not
mean.
there, so that would be it for me, man.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty awesome story, Cody. You should definitely take the Beagle note and take that to heart because you guys are you guys just sprint on blood trails every time. But yeah, I mean that's I definitely if we're doing stories, I have two of them for sure. Tracking wise, both of them I didn't kill a single thing. One of them, Cody's brother Garrett called us the first Sunday you could hunt, the very first archery Sunday you could hunt. I
The
was tagged down.
windiest day ever.
Yes, yeah, wind was
Hmm.
blowing 60 miles an hour. We're like, you're nuts for even going out. Uh, Somehow he had service. He called me. He goes, or his dad called me. He's like, you know where Garrett's at? He shot a giant buck. I'm like, no, I have no clue where he's at. Like he's burned. I'm not going. Cody calls me. He's like, we're going to get Garrett's buck. And next thing you know, Cody picks me up. I said, all right, we'll go. We hike. Cody's like, it's so much quicker to just go up over the hill instead of using the valley. Well, that was an awful idea because it was straight up and then you hit a plateau. I'm like, oh, we're almost there. Nope, it was just a plateau. You got 7 more straight ups to do. And it was just straight up, straight up. In the middle of it, it's downpouring. We're soaked and there was 2 people already up there. My brother was already up there, and then Hunter was up there, and our buddy Hunter, and they had the buck buggy. And I mean, we got up there just a pouring down rain, literally on the highest hill I think you could be on in the area, and not hill, mountain. Like we were in a different county by the time we started in Brockway where we live, and we ended up. It was the next town technically. Like it, that's just how far
Oh
up
man.
we hiked. Yeah, and it was pouring down rain, windy, and I mean it's Garrett's biggest buck to date. And I mean it's just a story that like we were all together, high fiving, soaking wet from sweat, from rain. Feel like you're gonna get blown over by the wind. Like it's just we were all together. It was a good time.
I feel like the funniest part about the whole entire story is he goes, "Yeah, it was so windy that I missed him the first shot. He stood there, and I shot him again. I shot at him
he, he
again.
missed him. He missed him at 25, and it was so windy he had no clue what happened. He actually came closer and he shot him at like 15 or something like that. Like he missed his buck
Beautiful.
beforehand. But
That's
other than
I
unreal.
love
tracking,
it.
my next greatest story, because this is one I'll tell to the day I die. Uh, Bear season. I was up in Benazet. I knew a guy. Monster's already shaking his head because he knows it. Because I tell it all the time because I love it. Uh, they put me in the spot, driving this big valley, and there's only a couple spots these bears like to come up over. And they're like, yeah, you're going to sit there. I was 16 at the time. This is my first year bear hunting. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm standing there. Giant buck comes running by me, and like I'm on like a tram road, like a logging road. This big buck comes running up out of the valley, stands on the tram road, probably 140-inch buck, 50 yards away, just staring at me with a doe. I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. I can't remember. I think I saw turkeys. They flushed turkeys out of there. They went flying. Next thing you know, I look down. I just see this big black coming right at me, and I was like, "Holy shit, that's a bear! Like, I better shoot this thing." Don't know what I was thinking. It was coming at me, kind of quartering to me, and I've never really hunted bear. I'm like, oh, I'll put it on the shoulder. Put it on the shoulder, shot. It dropped. I shot it again. Hit it in the skull, actually. I shattered its skull. Went tumbling down over this hill, got up and just started running. I'm shaking like a leaf. I'm like, holy shit, I just shot a bear. Can't believe, like, just going nuts. And then, mind you, I hear the guys below me are shooting. And I'm like, shit, I must not have killed this thing. Like, I don't know. Is it dead? Is it not dead? Because back down the hill is pretty deep. And I'm standing there, still shaking. Next thing I know, I'm like, holy shit, here comes black again. Like, what do I do? If it's a bear, do I shoot it? Do I let it walk by? Like, I don't know if mine's dead. Next thing you know, 30 yards hits the tram road because there was like a tram road below me and I saw it. I'm like, holy shit, that's an elk. Next thing you know, hits the tram road I'm on. Giant 6x6 elk with a collar at 30 yards, just standing there looking at me. I mean, I didn't end up getting
So cool.
the bear, but it ended up live weight. It was 548 or just over 600 pounds.
Holy shit.
The second driver below me. So it was me, then my uncle, and then another guy. The guy below my uncle ended up getting it. And it's just like a story. Like I saw a giant whitetail, a giant bear, a giant elk, and like I didn't kill anything. Like it was just insane.
That's pretty cool, man. That's one hell of a hunt, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's something we don't get to experience the elk part of it. That's so cool.
That is cool, man.
Yeah, I forget that parts of Pennsylvania are just super, super wild, and you can just experience something that cool with 3 different species. That's awesome, man.
That's a hell of a bear too. Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's a giant
Yeah,
bear.
it was a giant.
All right, fellas. So we're pretty good on time. The way we like to end it is with a hot button topic, and I got one that I think should turn some gears on some people. So we'll jump right into it. My question is, does money buy you a bigger deer?
My answer would be absolutely yes. Money can buy you a bigger deer. I think that there are people out there that are very famous in this industry because they do have the opportunity and the money spent to make very, very large whitetail. Whether it's on your own property and you're managing it, putting all kinds of money and time and effort into your own property, or showing up at a place, putting 10 grand down. I want your biggest buck on your property and hunting a, not a high fence, but, a guided hunt in Illinois or Iowa if you have the tag or whatnot. So I would say yes.
I'm gonna go completely against you and say absolutely not. I know that's kind of a weird answer there, but I would say no matter how much money you spend, whether it's, putting money into gear, putting money into a property, buying a hunt. Buying the hunt might be a little bit different of a scenario, but let's say you even just spend a pile of money and you buy a farm in Iowa. Get down to brass tacks, your woodsmanship is what's going to put a big deer in front of you and actually get it killed. Hands down across the board, because it doesn't matter how much money you spend. If you aren't in the right tree at the right time, you're not going to get it done.
I'll go next. And I'm going to say it's yes and no. And I'm going to agree with what Chuck was saying. I'm going to agree with Austin saying. But I'll go why I say Austin. Austin's right because some Joe Schmo with a freaking pack of Marble Reds in Pennsylvania is going to shoot a 190-inch deer, and we're not even going to know about it because we have high-power rifles. Now, what Chuck was saying also, I'm going to go with yes with that too, because consistently you can kill a bigger deer if you're like, prime example, Lee Lukoski and Mark Drury and those kind of people. So that's the way I look at it in this situation, in this topic.
All right, I guess I'll go next. I was waiting for Moss to go. I'm right down the middle. I mean, I agree with everything that's been said. I mean, you can throw money down. Like you said, go throw 10, 20 grand down and say, give me the biggest buck on the property. But Austin, you're 100% right. I mean, if you don't, you can go buy a huge chunk of land in Iowa. Doesn't mean you're going to kill a giant buck. I mean, you still got to put in the work. You got to scout. You have to, if you're going to do food plots or corn or whatever you're going to do, like you still have to put in all that work and still be in the right place at the right time. It's not a guarantee just because you bought 150 acres in Iowa. So I'm kind of right down the middle in the topic.
Now, I agree with Chuck. Money buys you bigger deer. Now, it comes down to that last 5%. Can you kill that deer?
Mm-hmm.
You can put all the money into food plots, redneck blinds, all this stuff. You're spending. If you look at juries or Bukowski's, they're spending, I guarantee, close to $1 million on all their properties every year just for deer. But it's that last 5%. Can you kill it? I think money buys you opportunities at bigger bucks. That's what I'll leave it at.
I dig it. That was fun.
Yeah. I also don't disagree with any of you guys.
No,
That
no,
middle of the road answer is kind of I don't want to say it's the safe answer, but it kind of is, because at the same sense, like Charles said, you can go and be like, I want to shoot your biggest buck, and they'll probably put you in front of it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's definitely possible, but
Yeah.
from a
That
more
was
practical standpoint of it.
yeah. This whole thing was tough for me because it was kind of like speak your mind and then let everyone else talk without like rebutting.
Yeah.
That was tough, man. I really like that a lot, actually.
too.
But I agree. I mean, there's going to be the people that show up to certain farms that have never been hunted. They have deer that are so big they've never seen a person that you could stand up there and do jumping jacks in your tree and still kill, a 190, 200, whatever they have. But then there's other scenarios where the guys like you mentioned, Lukowski's and Juries and some of these other dudes, yeah, they put a lot of time and effort into their property and a lot of money, and they're growing bigger deer. They're actually basically manufacturing bigger deer, but that takes money. I mean, regardless, that takes money, and they do kill a lot of them too. I mean, they kill a
True.
lot of giant deer. So, I don't know.
And I don't know.
Statistics.
I used to work in the industry quite a bit. I work for AccuForge, but it's just blows my mind the type of marketing there is for like products in the industry. It's like, oh, buy my product, you'll kill bigger deer. Like, you'd think we'd be out of that age right now, but I still see it all the time, and it just it really annoys me.
I agree.
I agree too.
Definitely, man. It is. It's definitely annoying to see stuff like that. I mean, I went in to buy some supplemental food just the other day, and there's 9 different bags on there that all tell you that you're going to get the biggest deer ever if you buy theirs.
Yeah.
9 of them,
Yeah.
and
Great example.
they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep. So I think we're definitely more than good on this podcast. If we want to wrap it up, I don't want to take up your whole night.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I think we're good. We appreciate you guys for coming on.
Yeah.
Go ahead and give yourself, definitely give yourself the plug. Where can we find you guys on socials, your podcast, everything like that?
First and foremost, I appreciate you guys thinking of us and asking us to come on. That's awesome. It's an honor, man.
yeah, definitely honored, and we appreciate it and had a great time as well. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find us on. Go ahead, keep going.
I was just going to say it's an honor for us.
I appreciate it, man. You can find us on social media anywhere at the Whitetail Distraction Podcast. You can find us anywhere podcasts are found, the Whitetail Distraction Podcast, and yeah, hit us up. We'll talk to anybody.